Hi, it's Becky here from Cards by Becky. I've just shown you how to stamp Reading Beauty by Saturated Canary. It's a little darling's rubber stamp, and I'm going to show you how I colour it. I do like to use my markers to colour in because I love the convenience and the control you have over them, but I do find some colours are best with 3 inkers. So what I've done for those is I've one of these Tim Holtz trays, which I've slightly dapped so I can bring the lid off to take less space. I've written the colours of what I've used on the lids and just the initials on the actual tray. I do remember most of the time what they are. Occasionally I do have to refer to the lid, but I do find it much more convenient to have the tray separate. Right, the brushes I like to use vary in size. At the moment I quite like these Pro Art Polars, Da Vinci, and there's Jarvis one. I think I got these ones off eBay. But you need the round tips, so for a variety of size. Some water, a cloth. There's going to be an old piece of some kitchen roll. I like this old tea towel, and I've got a selection of markers as well. Oops. I'll start off by going in with the skin. I use a size 3 brush for this, so I get it nice and wet and take the excess off. Get my Tattered Rose distress marker, and with the brush end I just carefully go in where what's going to be the darkest eventually. Just pop some on. Doesn't matter if you bleed over at this point because you can always correct it with other colours. So you want a very, very light layer of colour down first. Don't worry too much about the different shades at the minute because you are going to go in with Vintage Photo. So you want to check all the bits where she has skin. There's a bit there on her foot too. Rinse the colour off your brush. And then I always leave everything to dry a little bit between. I don't like to just do one bit at once. So next we go in with the hair with Antique Linen Distress Marker. Once again with the brush end. You're going to be starting off where you're going to have everything darker eventually. So where she has all of her bits hanging over and round the flowers. I'll do one side of the head first. And just brush in. If you start to get too much paint on your brush, just give it a little rinse. Some places does not very dark, but it does all come together in the end. Same again, just where she has like little bits overlapping, just go in. And this is where you can get rid of bits of mistakes where you've gone over with the hair. Sorry, with the skin colour. If your brush goes a bit too dry, just dip it in, get the excess off. There we are. Next, start to do some more of the shading for her skin. So I then go in with the Vintage Photo and just put tiny, tiny bits on. You really don't need a lot. Quite a dryish brush for this. So for the last one there, just lean enough on your brush just to do the other over. Same on the other side. You really, really don't need a lot. And then just go in where the bits are going to be more shadowed around the hairline. It's best to do a little bit because you can always add more where if you put too much on. You can not so much bring it off but water it down a bit. It's best just to start off with small amounts. And a bit of shadow under her neck. I'm forgetting, of course, her foot. It's just the kids just playing around. Now, although I have got all of the markers, I don't like the colours that the browns come out. To me, by the time you brush them round, one moment, I'll just turn this off a minute. Yeah, sorry about that, just the children were playing there, they wanted something getting. Right, as I was saying, the pens come out a bit too green, so it's when I go to my rankers. So I use the same 3 colours for all of the hair, going from blonde to dark brown. The depth of colour I get, it depends on what the ratios I use of each. But I always start with antique linen, and I go in next with frayed burlap. Once again, you just go in the areas that you want to be darker eventually. So all of these little curly bits on a bit more. So I'm just getting a tiny bit on the tip of my brush. You can use a smaller brush if you find that easier. I just like the control that you get from the larger brushes. Or if you find you can get smaller amounts on the smaller brushes, use them. I find if you sit back from when you've done something as well, you can see everything a bit clearer. In some of the places that you've already gone in, you might decide when you look back that you need a little bit more. Sorry, that background noise, if you can hear it, just the children playing with some guns. My husband's getting dressed up as a Green Soldier, and these are all of his spare guns that he's been getting. Yeah, just going in there. And like the bit behind her ear is going to end up being darker anyway, so you put a bit in there just to hopefully come along with the darker colour. Just so these aren't too long for you, I've decided I'm going to just split them. I'll do the skin and hair in this one. I'll do the clothes in the next one, and then I'll have a separate one for the background. I always do the backgrounds last because sometimes once an image is coloured, I decide that it doesn't actually need a background. But I do always give them a floor to sit or stand on, otherwise it looks like they're floating. Blend the edges away, just give your brush a little wipe and get rid of all the excess. That bit there, that's a bit hard, I think. So if you look at people's hair, you can see where the light gets caught and where it reflects and where's darker and where's lighter. Nobody's hair is just one flat plain colour because of the way the light catches everything. Too much on there, a little brush off. Right. See, I've got a few extra splodges on the end there. If you take a bigger brush, get it wet, you can just wash them out. Be careful what you're doing with your hands, this happens to me all the time. Just give them a quick wash out. But you will find that there's a bit of colour left, but that will soon, with it being that far out, you can either cut it away or colour over it with background colour. It's back once again to me 3 brush with the frayed burlap. The patterns always tend to be a bit darker anyway. Too much. Quick brush. There we go. Obviously underneath where the flowers are as well, it's going to be darker. You don't want to blend this in completely because you'll lose the hair effect anyway. there's the second coat of her hair. So now we go back into the skin with the tattered rose again, with the brush end, just to give the hair a bit longer, just to dry a bit. I'm starting with her feet. So you're just going over the vintage photo just to tone it down a tad. And bring the colour out. So once again, this is just preferential taste. Some people prefer the tea dye at this point, instead of the vintage photo, sorry. Just this is the colour I like. Then you're going in to my neck. With a greater shadow there from her chin, shadow there and a shadow there from her hair. Just to wipe the excess off. And if you brush backwards from the light to the dark, you get a better, you're not moving the colour along, but you're still blending the colour what's there. Right. Once again, where you're going in with the vintage photo. And you just carefully blend that out. Go over the lips a bit, it doesn't matter because you're going to be going over them with a pinky colour anyway. So there's a skin almost done for me. I like to go in with another colour, but I'll show you that in a minute. Right, rinse your brush off, go to quite a point, and then we're using the walnut stain re-inker again from our little tray. And you're just following the strands and the dark bits. Because I just say touch it, it does take quite a few dips in the ink, this. But you will see the hair start to pop. Start in the darker bits and just bring your brush up. Just doing little feathery strokes. You can even go some places where you haven't put any frayed burlap, just to, because once you start looking again you will realise that you need a bit more. You keep sitting back to have a proper look of what you've done. And be careful as well with the walnut stain, it's a bit harder to wash off than the frayed burlap, so try not to get your hand in any bits of ink. And keep going over just to make the a bit deeper the colours. Obviously behind there is going to be quite dark because that's what's behind her ear. So we just do that, brush it out, give the brush a little rinse off because you don't always see the strands just behind there, you can just blend that bit in. So that just gives it a bit more depth looking as well. You'll also see when you start colouring that you realise that you've missed a bit. That little bit there should be skin. I think just tiny bits on the edge of your brush. You can see how she's coming to life a little bit now. See what I mean by getting a bit on the side there. Just right at the edge, doesn't matter too much, as long as you dry it off a bit so you're not going to keep on splodging. And apparently we'll go a bit darker again. So you need to go a bit more underneath there. Which is quite blonde, this girl. Sometimes I don't actually decide what colour hair how dark I'm going to go, so I start colouring in. Walnut stain on there. A bit darker in there. And then just where you've got these bits, just follow the curls around a little bit. Really, it's all just a case of what you want to do, how you want to go. There's a lot of practice involved though. Yeah, I think that's about it for the hair. I'll show you the last bit I do for the skin as well. Just to brush off, make sure it's quite dry and get it to a point. And just to accentuate the shadows a bit, I use a tiny bit of walnut stain, not a lot. Once again, just tiny bits on your brush. And just go in the darker areas. So if you don't want to do this bit, you don't have to do this bit, just a bit that I like doing. So you don't need a lot, just go in, wipe your brush off, and just blend it in. The way just to blend it out. Just see, this gives a bit more definition, I think, to bits. Sometimes it's actually best if you don't actually brush, more of a dab than a brush. And we'll come back to our neck. I'm going to keep that bit quite light. You can see when you sit back, you can see it more. This time it's around a hairline, which is why I moved to the face last, just doing the hair not long since. So you just bring in shadow in there. To the side of her face, ear. You can also see that she needs a bit just underneath that piece of hair there. Not too much. Right. By the sounds of it, the guns have just got down. They've managed to break one of them. Right, there we are. There's the skin and the hair. I'll come back with the clothes, but part 2. Thank you for watching. Any questions, just ask them. Thank you. Bye.